guys, Nary here from Drakewing Gaming. So if you know me on Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Echo, Carl's Path. So let's go ahead and jump right back in where we left off, guys. We were just running towards the fire with some awful thing coming up behind us. But anyway, guys, please sit back for the next 16 minutes while entertaining and let's jump right in. Alarm sound, you're up, and let's go. Let's do it. Okay. Over our ragged breathing, though, there's dead silence all around us, except for a drum beat. Either they can't hear us or they can't respond. Carl's gripping onto me with both of his hands, practically hauling me off my feet as he pulls me along. Suddenly he stops. What the fuck am I doing? What was that? He lets me go and crouches down in front of me. On my back! I'm there before he even finishes his sentence, and soon my face is bouncing off his hard skull as he starts sprinting towards the fire. Whether it's in my head or not, I swear I can hear a slithering sound behind me, like a snake sliding over dry leaves. I shiver, not wanting to look back, but I do anyway, trying to peer into the darkness. Of course I can't see anything, but I swear, something flashes in front of the lone rectangle of light coming from the cabin's kitchen window. The rustling sound gets louder, and now I can't pretend that I'm imagining it. It casts a picture into my mind. That black shadow creature contorting and bending through the sagebrush that Carl was having so much trouble moving through. I held onto one of his horns and leaned towards his ear. Carl! It's getting close! And my stomach lurches as it feels like the floor suddenly drops away. Next thing I know, my nose smacks hard into the back of Carl's head before I flip over, landing on my back on what feels like a sea of sharp rocks. I lay there for a second, dazed, staring at the black ocean above me, wondering if any of this is real. Am I still dreaming? Maybe I'll just wake up in my room. Probably late to my legal and ethical issues in journalism class. Fuck! Are you okay? A muffled voice breaks through my haze of confusion and pain. Then I'm being yanked back up as Carl pulls me to my feet and clumsily shoves me back onto his back. Sorry! Shit! Sorry! Fine. I can barely mumble through my numb mouth, which feels like it's full of pennies. I can see I'm making dark stains on the back of Carl's shirt. It feels like my face is caved in. I wonder if my nose is broken, but the fear of the pursuit is returning and I quickly clutch at Carl's horns before he resumes his sprint. He finally comes to a stumbling halt in front of the massive bonfire which had looked so small from the cabin. We both stare up at it, the heat almost unbearable. The whispers behind me reach a crescendo, the hissing just over my shoulder. What are we supposed to do? My voice raises in pitch as I look back behind us, the black shape now discernible in the firelight as it slithers around the rocks and sagebrush. It's like a person imitating a snake. I grip onto Carl as he turns to face it, then takes a step back, then another. I don't know! I cling to the ram, and I can feel him trembling underneath me. As the creature reaches the edge of the circle of the firelight, Carl turns and starts running past the fire. And then my muscles seize up, my jaw clenches, my eyes roll back, and I feel myself falling backwards. The heat is almost unbearable, and my fur is damp from sweat. The skin underneath itching and uncomfortable. I can feel the sun on my face, the brightness turning the insides of my eyelids a dazzling red. I don't want to open them, though. No, I just want to sleep. I almost do fall asleep, but a distant chorus of shouts and screams jolts me back awake. Now I do try to open my eyes, but I can't. It's like they're glued shut. I reach up to paw at them, but my arms won't lift. I must be dreaming, stuck in a paralysis. So I lay there, listening to the shouting and screaming, imagining an angry mob. After what feels like hours, the voice fades and the red turns deeper, darker, blood-like, as if the sun is setting. And that's when I can finally drift away, back to sleep. A soft, choking moan brings me back to the surface. I'm still hot and sweaty, but the blazing sun isn't shining in my face anymore. I wiggle my fingers and shift my arms a bit, feeling them glide over fabric. At least I'm not paralyzed anymore. Another moan, followed by a coughing sound, forces me to open my eyes, realizing it's not part of a dream. I stare up at the ceiling, a textured beige ceiling. I'm back in the room where I'd slept. How long ago? A day? A few days? It doesn't matter because everything comes back to me at once. I feel like a lead weight has just dropped onto my chest, knocking the wind out of me. Fuck, is this not over? Now I'm starting to become convinced that this is never going to end. We're stuck in a loop just like in my dreams. Another moan, slightly weaker, makes me sit up and look around the room. I'm alone as far as I can tell. Where are the others? Am I actually alone? I can't stop a soft whimper coming from my mouth at the thought of being separated from the others. I was barely keeping it together with Carl, but without him. A loud cough through the wall behind me makes me jump again. I quickly slide off the bed and immediately cringe as my weight comes to rest on my swollen ankle. I sag against the bed for a moment, squinting my eyes shut as I wonder why my ankle is only getting stiffer. Maybe the fall Carl had taken made it even worse. The thought that those moans could be coming from Carl spurs me to straighten up and carefully hop towards the door. I have to stifle a short yelp with every balance, and by the time I reach the door frame, I have to lean against it to catch my breath. My hands shake as I rub my eyes, the pain making me wonder if I'll ever be able to walk without a limp again. Another groan from the room next to me forces me to move again. In the hallway now, I'm able to make out the sounds a bit better and realize it has a feminine quality to it. Jenna! My voice comes out in a crackly squeak, and I grunt to clear my throat. Jenna! I try again and wait, but I get no response in return. I force myself to step into the hallway, clinging to the wall for support. When I look down the hall to the door next to mine, I find something very familiar. A damaged wooden door, the middle bulging and splintered out as if something had hit it from the other side. Memories of a bad smell, a dark concrete room, and a noose. I hold tighter to the doorframe, feeling my knees tremble, both from pain and fear. I look behind me, hoping to see Carl, maybe even Raven. A shuffling sound followed by another cough and gurgle draws my eyes back to the door. If it's Jenna, I have to act now. I steady myself against the wall as I hop slowly to the door, eyes watering with the pain now. Reaching out with a shaking hand, I start to slowly push at the door. I'm hoping that I might be able to crack it open just a little bit and not draw the attention of whatever it is inside. The door only shifts a little, though, and seems to catch on the ground underneath it. It lets out a rough scratching sound that makes my fur raise up. Gritting my teeth, I forgo the stealthy approach and give it a hard shove. This time it opens halfway and able to see into the room. Just like last time, there's no light coming from within the room itself. Instead, I have to rely on the dim yellow light coming from the hallway. It casts a widening band of light into the concrete room as the doors open. The smell hits me like a wave and I immediately gag, doubling over and pressing a hand to my nose before pulling up the neck of my shirt over my nose. Sure, I smell like B.O. from the 2 days of running in the fear, but it's better than the sweet smell of rotting meat that's enveloping me. Still shaking, I peer into the room while I lean against the door, but I'm only able to see the cracked concrete floor and walls. The grunting, choking sounds reach a peak now, and it's coming from beyond the band of light. It's an inky blackness that isn't all that different from what Carl and I had run through. Hello? No response. It sounds like the grunting has stopped too. Shit, I have to do something now. I think about just kicking the door open and jumping back, but then I remember there's really nothing I can do with my feet right now. Taking a deep breath, I set both hands against the door. I steel myself for whatever I'm about to see, then shove the door as hard as I can. The door swings in suddenly, scraping horribly against the floor the entire way. I yelp at the suddenness of it all, the tension all exploding out of me at once as I jump back in fear. The band of light widens, sweeping over the entirety of the concrete room before the door finally lodges against the wall with a snapping sound. I almost lose my balance, arms swinging around cartoonishly as I try to hop on one foot. At the same time, I'm fearfully eyeing the opening, terrified of what I'm about to see. And what I do see is definitely terrifying. It's Jenna, in the middle of the room. She's hanging from the noose, her muzzle tilted up so I'm able to clearly see the rope digging into the fur around her neck, painfully tight. Her toes are barely touching the floor, but it doesn't even look like she's trying to keep herself up. It's like she's unconscious. Jenna! There's no response, and I find myself leaping in her direction. I forget about my ankle until all my weight comes down on it twice in my mad dash, and I literally scream as it happens. There isn't any time to worry about it, though, as I grab at Jenna, unsure of what to do. At first, I try to wrap my arms around her and lift her up, screaming again as I set my weight down on my foot. She doesn't respond to any of this and just hangs there limp in my arms, which terrifies me even more. I reach up and pluck uselessly at the hangman's knot that I immediately know isn't going to budge no matter how much I pull. Carl! Carl, help! I feel myself starting to panic. Desperately, I look around, trying to find something, anything I might be able to use to cut at the rope. Jenna! I call up at her. I can't see her eyes from this angle, but I can't feel any movement in her. I try to press my ear against her chest, but I'm not sure if I'm doing it in the right spot. I try to quiet my breathing and actually listen, but I still can't hear anything. Shit! Carl! I feel myself starting to hyperventilate, and I try again to slow my breathing. If I pass out right now, I'm going to be less help than I already am. The world is starting to take on a surreal tint, and I think I'm actually dreaming. I think about running to the kitchen, but I don't want to let her go, especially since I feel like she's on the edge of dying right now. I reach up again and start trying to worm my fingers underneath the rope, but it's useless. It's way too tight. My eyes start to water as I realize I'm not helping her at all right now, aside from maybe taking a little pressure off her neck. But it might be too late anyway. Help! I'm suddenly hyper-aware of the screaming pain in my ankle, and I feel it giving out. So are my arms, burning with the strain of trying to hold up Jenna. I press my face against her chest, feeling myself start to give in on everything. and then suddenly the weight disappears and I feel Jenna lift up several inches in the air. I look up and see Carl next to me, his big arms easily able to keep the fox off the ground. Not only that, but he's got a knife in one hand. I recognize it's the same knife Carl had used earlier in the hallway. Carl! I sob with relief as he sets to sawing at the rope, and soon all three of us come crashing to the ground as Jenna's cuts free. We lay there in a heaving heap, the only sound in our gasps as we all try to catch our breaths, Jenna being the loudest. After a while, I sit up and look over at her. She's already sitting up herself, one hand to her neck, rubbing at it. Are you okay? I reach out to her. I'm fine. She leans away a little from my hand, so I drop it. I thought you were going to die, Jenna. My voice is all shuddery, and I struggle to keep my emotions under control, to not have a panic attack. Whatever was controlling this whole scenario just tried to kill one of us. But then I guess that's already happened with the shadow creature thing, and even with what's happened to Raven. Jenna picks up the knife and brings it up to her neck, starting to saw away the rope. I can help. She ignores me. I look over at Carl and see that he's flat on his back, arms spread out. Thank you, Carl. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't showed up. Carl raises a hand in acknowledgement. How the hell did you get a knife? Carl takes a few more gasps to catch his breath. I heard you guys and saw that. He gestures up at the hanging rope and the end of it frizzed out after the cut. Remember that the knife I dropped when we were here before. Thank God. We lay there a while longer, Jenna busy hacking at the rope, Carl choosing to stare up at the ceiling. That almost peaceful moment is shattered as a husky stumbles into the doorframe, grasping the wall as he practically trips in. Whoa! Hey, guys! He grins, waving a hand at us as he rights himself. He looks around at us, taking in the scene. What happened? Jenna got hanged. Carl cut her down. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. Oh, crap! He stares wide-eyed at Jenna. Well, guess it's surprising it wasn't me this time, huh? He lets out a high-pitched, nervous laugh. None of us even cracks a smile. You're okay, though, right? I'm fine. Raven looks around the room. Well, it looks like we were still here. Carl lets out a big, shuddery breath. I don't know if I can do this anymore. What do you mean? We're stuck. I don't know what else we're supposed to do. Just keep looking around. We're finding stuff, right? And then what? Get sucked into another fucked up place where we'll be chased around and almost killed? He waves his hand in Jenna's direction. Look what just happened. It wants us dead. Carl. I trail off. What? I try to think of something to say, anything that might convince the ram to keep going. Just a while ago, minutes, hours, days, I was having the same doubts, but for some reason Carl's sudden demeanor of defeat has me more motivated. Whew. Because if Carl gives up, what else is there to keep me going? There's a soft snap, and I look over to see that Jenna's pulled the rope from her throat. How's your neck? Jenna rubs it. Fine. Her voice has an air of complete disinterest despite the situation. She seems distracted, too, her eyes flicking around at the ceiling, like she's expecting something to happen up there. I look up, too, but all I see is concrete that's spiderweb with cracks. The rope, I notice, is hanging from nothing. It just sort of grows out of the ceiling. Carl lets out another side next to me. Wish I had a joint! I feel a small flicker of annoyance. And how will that help anything? Carl's quiet for a moment, clearly sensing the change in my mood. I immediately regret it, but I don't have the energy to take it back. Because it might make me feel a little better. By making you feel less? We need to be alert right now, so we can figure this out. I bring my tone back down to normal, realizing how unfair it would be if I get mad at Carl right now. I don't know if we can, though. Carl's lips tug down in a frown, and it looks like he's trying to keep himself from crying. Before I can say anything to comfort him, Jenna speaks up. You will. Her voice is dark, firm, and completely unlike the way Jenna has ever spoken before. We both look at her, and she sits there, legs crossed, staring hard at us. Well, at me. Carl sits up. Jenna! Jenna doesn't look at him. Instead, she keeps looking at me. John? Now she does look at Carl, and it's out of instinct, her eyes darting to him before looking back at me. I recognize it as that almost unstoppable urge to look the way you hear your name being called. Yeah, we'd suspected. And Jenna had been acting weird, but to think that she was that consumed by him. Carl glances at me meaningfully. We haven't asked her directly about it yet, so I guess now's the time. Hey, Jenna, are you feeling okay? I'm feeling fine. It's just that you haven't seemed like yourself for a while now. What do you mean? I look over at Carl as he shifts himself around on the floor. Listen, when we first got here, and even a little before that, I was feeling weird. Carl pauses as he seems to be searching for the right words. Sort of like something else had become part of me. Jenna narrows her eyes at Carl but doesn't say anything. There was another voice in my head, after a while I knew it was that guy, James, in my head. Sounds like you're going crazy. Carl frowns. Maybe, but he was making me act different, feel different. It was also kind of fucked up, to be honest. Weird. Yeah, Weird, but it was easy to get him out of my head. Carl points at his horns. And now he's not there anymore. Jenna keeps that stern look on her face, frowning at Carl. What are you trying to say? Well, do you know a guy named John? John Begay? Not really. You keep mentioning him, but no one's told me who he is, aside from the fact that he was hanged. I remembered the picture that taken of John back in Carl's crawl space. My hand feels my phone through my pocket as I almost reach in to pull it out before remembering that it's dead. He was in some of the pictures with James Hendricks, the founder of the town. Jenna stares at me blankly. James was Carl's ancestor, right? We think that John was your ancestor, too. He was a fox and has the same last name. So wasn't your family an Echo since the beginning? Yes. So it seems like you're probably related to him, right? Jenna stares hard at me, then at Carl. Our family doesn't have records like yours, Carl. Carl frowns again. You say that like it's my fault. Maybe it is. Carl starts to sputter again, but I cut in before he can defend himself. See? Jenna doesn't talk like that. You wouldn't say something like that. Jenna doesn't say anything, keeping up her glare at Carl. Carl clears his throat nervously. What I'm trying to say is that maybe your ancestor's in your head like mine was. I don't think so. Carl lets out a frustrated sigh. I mean, something's different with you, dude. I can see it. Chase sees it. I nod in confirmation. Raven suddenly cuts in. I mean, I don't know you that well, but if we're not going by how a normal person acts, you're not acting very normal. We're not in a normal situation like that, are we? Carl shakes his head. I know you can resist it like I did, Jenna. You've always had a really strong mind, way stronger than mine. Carl swallows. So it shouldn't be a problem for you to stop it like I did. Jenna shrugs. Nothing's wrong with me, Carl. We all go quiet then. Besides, this isn't about clearing James's name or what? Isn't this about clearing James's name or whatever? Why are we talking about John? Jenna stares at Carl, eyes moving across his face like she's searching for something. Carl stares hard right back at her. Unless you don't want to fight it. Jenna's expression remains emotionless. I mean, are you letting him? I don't know, Carl. Are you letting him control you? No, I already told you I fought him out. How do we know that's true? Carl throws his hands up. Dude, why would I lie? Carl looks at me for some help. Yeah, Carl's way different than he was earlier. He's himself now. But how do you know that? I don't know what else to say to Jenna to convince her. Of course, I can't be completely sure. The only person that can know is Carl. He says he isn't possessed anymore, and I trust him on that. Jenna, he isn't, I promise. You think James kept his promises? Carl and I share a look. Jenna, what do you mean by that? A strange look crosses Jenna's face, breaking out of the stoic detachment she's been portraying for the last however long it's been. It's confused, but it's also like she wants to say something with her mouth open. Jenna? She seems to be frozen like that for a moment before she finally seems to give up, shaking her head. I don't know. She glares at Carl. He blanches defensively. What? You keep acting like this is my fault. Maybe it is. This time Raven cuts in before Carl can say anything. Is James stopping John from saying something? I watch Jenna closely, and that's when she finally looks away. I don't know. Jenna, are John and James upset with one another? Jenna shrugs, not looking at me. Carl lets out a sigh of frustration. Jenna, we need to figure this out. Listen, I don't know much about these guys, but it sounds like James and John are trying to tell us something. Alright guys, I'm going to pause it right here. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave a super thanks or tip if you can. It always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!